Hi guys, Jared here. Time for the market video update. We have had a very active UK session, and the US has kind of continued pushing along. We made some very good pips in the UK session last night for our live session that we had. We're going to talk about a few more things and a few more details here, but for the moment, let's have a look at how the markets have done today so far. Pretty bad, pretty bad. Oil is down a good little chunk, all the way down in the 104.70s, which is great with me. I think it's overpriced anyways. Gold is down quite a bit. Gold's taking a big hit. We're going to look at that gold chart. The Dow is down 200 plus points. S&P down 25 points. Very big bad day for the markets, the U.S. equities markets. We're going to look at how that all affected the charts and so on. We've got a little bit of news coming out today. The Aussie dollar will have the GDP in just about 4.5 hours from now. That's typically a pretty decent mover. We had the interest rate announcement yesterday, and that continued to push the Aussie dollar lower. And we've had a little bit of these announcements today. Coming into tomorrow morning, we've got for the UK session, we've got some Swiss franc news, but we do have the ADP non-farm report, and this is kind of that precursor to non-farm. It's not nearly as big of a mover as non-farm, which is coming out this Friday, but it is definitely a bit of a mover. So we got to keep an eye on that. And we have some Canadian and some New Zealand interest rates coming out, employment numbers for Australia. So pretty big news day tomorrow. Pretty big news day indeed. We've seen the dollar index really hopping around here. Remember, I talked about 79 being kind of my level that I was looking for to see if we were going to be able to break above this 80 mark, and it looks like there might be some possibilities of that retesting the highs here. So it's back up above 79 and it's hanging in there pretty well, and we're seeing some pretty good movement. Now, here were a couple of things that we looked at last night. Remember, if you guys saw the daily video yesterday, I talked about buying above 132.50, about 45.50, or selling around 131.80.90, and we did see, here's 131.80 right here. We saw that so far that's run down 75, almost 80 pips, so it's made a very nice run and headed very nicely into our targets. Now, as far as where the euro is headed overall, I've got a couple of ideas on that, but I want to look at this. Our trade last night and yesterday was selling about 131.80. I still want to do that, and I think we're going to get an opportunity for that. The euro is all the way down to 131.100 right now. But I think we could get some trickle, some crazy news between now and and tomorrow morning potentially that could push this euro higher. And so I'm going to look to sell once again around 131.80 and see if I can get an entry up around 75.80 and sell up here. So I'm going to keep an eye on that as a possibility. Now, for that to happen, we do have to have some upward movement. So I'm going to look at probably buying above 131.30. So if the market gets above 131.30, I'm going to look for a little short-term buy. That's going to put us with probably about a 30 pip stop loss and a potential of about 40 pips on the take profit. But really, if this gets above 131.30, I'm going to look for a very short kind of run, and I'm going to keep my stop loss pretty tight. Probably not all the way below these lows, probably more just below this 131.30 area. If the market can't stay above that, I probably don't want to get in the trade. But again, looking to buy above 131.30 and ultimately looking to sell around 131.80 and even potentially as high as 132.00. But kind of in that general area is what I'm looking to do. Now, as far as the big picture goes, I got all this text in the way and it makes it hard to see, but we have the euro that's topped out up here off the top of this big trend line, and it's started coming down very nicely. We have this big trend line, these channels right here in this trend line on the daily chart, and the euro is currently about 110 pips or so below that trend line. So I'd say we got a pretty good break, and that puts us right around our next target here, which is just about the 130 mark, down in the lows of these candles right here. So that's what I'm looking to have happen over the next little while. Again, a break above 131.30 would definitely constitute a short-term trendline break, and I think we could get some good trading opportunities in there. Pound dollar ran very nicely as well. If you remember on the daily video yesterday, I talked about selling below 158.50 and ultimately taking another entry or even a first entry at 158.00. Both of those worked out perfectly. Here's 158.50, ran 50 pips to 158.00, ran another 40, 50 pips, retraced a little bit, and ultimately down another 100 pips. So Lots of good movement there. I'm looking for the same thing on this pound dollar. You can see that, again, the text is kind of in the way here, but the pound dollar is kind of double topping and doing a couple of things. I'm not super duper convinced on the breakout, but I think we've got some pretty good opportunities here. I think the real level to break on the pound dollar is going to be 156.50, and that's this guy right here. There's a lot of consolidation. If the pound gets below that, we're going to see some big movement to the downside. If it doesn't, then we're probably going to continue to see some chop, and we could even see a bounce and a continuation back up there. But that's about 50 pips or so away from where the market currently is. So I think it's time for a little bit of retracement. Time to see if we can get this thing back up to 157.80 to 15800 and look for some selling opportunities off that strong 15800 now resistance. So I'm going to be looking for that as a possible trading opportunity. Yen pairs are they've run pretty well actually. We've seen some good run on the yen pairs. And they're kind of the pound yen. We've looked at this one a little bit and talked about some of these levels. It's kind of sitting down there on some resistance, so we'll see what the pound yen ends up, or on some support, see what the pound yen ends up doing. We have some big news coming out for Australia today and tomorrow, and I really don't think that there's much of an entry on the Aussie dollar. It's broken this key level, which is about 102.20, 25.30, or excuse me, 106.25.30, right in that general area, and it's headed nicely down. We've got a nice trend line break and a bunch of good things going on here. But I think the Aussie needs to retrace just a little bit. It looks a little oversold to me. It looks like it's ready for a little bit of a pullback. That just straight down candle situation right there tells me that that's going to be looking for some pullback coming up here probably sooner than later. As we looked at gold here, we talked about this channel as well. If you saw the daily video yesterday, about 1725 on the top, 1685 on the bottom. Had a little short-term trend line right here. The gold broke that very nicely, gave a very good little run into that lower portion there to about 1735, or excuse me, into about 1685. Consolidated on there very nicely, and then ended up breaking that pretty solidly as well. Now, where is gold going? I think gold is going to kind of maintain a bit of an uptrend. It's going to kind of stay in its channel. It's probably going to do a couple of things, but there's a big channel on gold here. These lows are all the way down here, and we've got highs all the way up here, literally hundreds of dollars away, and gold's just kind of bouncing around. Now, it made this big break of this trend line right here, number one, broke, retraced, and now it broke this channel, number two, and it came just shy of about 1656, which is our 50% fib level. I think gold's got a very excellent chance of hitting this in the very near term. That's not too far away, about 140, 150 pips away, about $14 or $15 away. And then I think we've got a decent possibility of possibly reaching this 61.8, which is about 1625 on gold. So I'm going to keep an eye on those two areas right there. But again, as always, gold and the Aussie dollar and the euro dollar and pound dollar as well have been doing a good job kind of following each other. And so if gold continues downward, then we may not get too much of a retracement on that euro dollar pound dollar pair that we're looking at. But if it does give us a little bit of retracement, then we'll probably see some pretty good retracement on euro dollar pound dollar pairs and give us some nice selling opportunities around 131.80 and possibly around 157.80, 15800. So I'm going to be looking at those. I'll have more details posted in the chat and any trades that might be coming up. Best of luck, guys, and we'll see you in the chat.